Monday Night Football is back with a doubleheader that feels like it's at a crossroads, even this early in the 2025 season. Week 2 delivers compelling narratives with two games that pose critical questions for fans and bettors alike. In one corner, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are traveling to face the Houston Texans in a classic matchup of a team riding high versus a team searching for answers. The Bucs looked surprisingly potent in their opener while the Texans stumbled badly, raising the question, was Week 1 a fluke or a sign of things to come? Then we shift to the AFC West where the Los Angeles Chargers visit the Las Vegas Raiders in a rivalry game that always delivers drama. These are two franchises with playoff aspirations, and an early divisional win is invaluable for setting the tone in a brutal divisional race. This game isn't just about bragging rights, it's about establishing themselves as the primary challenger to Kansas City, making the stakes incredibly high for a September contest. What makes this doubleheader so intriguing for bettors is the clear contrast in matchups and betting opportunities. The Bucs-Texans game presents a significant point spread, forcing us to decide if a heavy favorite can cover on the road against a home underdog that looked completely outmatched last week. Meanwhile, the Chargers-Raiders game projects to be a much tighter affair with closer betting lines, reflecting the unpredictable nature of divisional battles. It's a puzzle of momentum, talent, and situational football that requires digging deeper than just team names. Here, the focus shifts to individual matchups and coaching strategies, the granular details that will likely decide the winners. For bettors, this means looking for the subtle advantages that can tip the scales and lead to a profitable Monday night. The implications are significant for both conferences, with early losses putting teams in holes that can be difficult to climb out of. Both games feature teams with legitimate championship aspirations, making every snap crucial in the long journey toward February. Under the bright lights of Monday Night Football, these four teams will battle not just for wins, but for momentum, confidence, and the early narrative of their seasons. Let's break down where the smart money should go. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers entered the season with tempered expectations, but their Week 1 performance sent a clear message to the rest of the league. They didn't just win, they looked cohesive and dynamic, particularly on offense, with the biggest story being the breakout performance of rookie wide receiver Emeka Egbuka. The first-round pick from Ohio State was electric from the opening whistle, becoming the focal point of the passing attack rather than just a complementary piece. His ability to create separation with precise route running and then gain significant yards after the catch was on full display. Egbuka's stat line was staggering for a debut: 9 catches, 142 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He demonstrated veteran-like chemistry with his quarterback, finding soft spots in zone coverage and winning one-on-one matchups with ease. With established weapons already in place, Egbuka's emergence gives Tampa a trio of receivers that few secondaries can handle. He instantly becomes a player that defensive coordinators must game plan for every single week, creating favorable matchups across the board. The running game should also benefit as defenses will be forced to play with lighter boxes to account for the passing threat. The play calling was creative, getting the ball into the hands of their best players in space while the offensive line held up well. The entire unit played with a confidence and swagger that was missing for stretches of last season. They looked less like a team in transition and more like a legitimate contender ready to make a run in the NFC South. The ripple effect of Egbuka's performance cannot be overstated. Defenses can no longer afford to double-team other receivers without risking being burned by the rookie. This creates more favorable matchups across the board and opens up the playbook even further. What we saw in Week 1 was the birth of a new-look Tampa Bay offense, one that is faster, more versatile, and significantly more dangerous than many experts predicted heading into the season. This offensive explosion has made the Buccaneers look like the clear favorites in the NFC South. While the Buccaneers were soaring, the Houston Texans were crashing back to earth in their sobering Week 1 matchup against the Los Angeles Rams. The final score was lopsided, but it was the way they lost that raised the most alarm bells for Houston. The offense looked completely out of sync, struggling to sustain drives, failing to generate explosive plays, and plagued by penalties and turnovers. The offensive line was a particular point of weakness, consistently overwhelmed by the Rams' pass rush, leading to constant pressure and several sacks. This breakdown up front had a cascading effect. The running game could never get going, and the quarterback had little time to scan the field. An offense cannot function when it is losing the battle in the trenches so decisively, and the Texans were thoroughly dominated from start to finish. The Buccaneers have opened as 7.5-point road favorites, with the money line heavily favoring Tampa Bay at -350. The Texans are sitting as +275 home underdogs, with the total for the game set at 44.5 points. This line tells us that the odds makers were not impressed with what they saw from Houston, and believe Tampa Bay is in a completely different class. For Houston to have any chance of covering this spread, let alone winning, they need a monumental turnaround in just a short week. The offensive line must find a way to handle the Buccaneers' defensive front, which is known for its aggressive blitz packages. The play calling will need to be much more creative, using screens, draws, and quick passes to neutralize the pass rush and get the ball out quickly. It's a tall order for a team that looked so lost just a week ago. The pressure is on the Texans' coaching staff to devise a game plan that can hide their weaknesses. With fundamental flaws that are not easily fixed in a single week, especially on the offensive line, Houston faces a mountain of issues to address. The coaching staff must find a way to give their players a chance to compete against a Buccaneers team that looks like an offensive juggernaut with Egbuka's emergence. In the second leg of our doubleheader, we head to Las Vegas for a classic AFC West showdown between two teams perpetually on the verge of breaking through. The Chargers and Raiders matchups are always filled with intensity and consequence, and this game is no different. Both teams are looking to establish themselves as the primary challenger to the Kansas City Chiefs in the division, and a head-to-head victory is the most direct way to do that. The history between these franchises is long and storied, and the animosity is real. Expect a physical, hard-fought game from the opening kickoff to the final whistle. The betting odds for this contest are much tighter, as expected for a divisional rivalry, with the Los Angeles Chargers currently slight 2.5-point road favorites. This line suggests the Chargers are perceived as slightly better on paper, but the Raiders' home field advantage at Allegiant Stadium evens the playing field. The money line reflects this competitive balance. Chargers at -140, Raiders at +120. This looks like a pick'em, and it'll likely come down to which team makes fewer critical mistakes in crucial moments. One of the most significant factors in any game is offensive line play, and in this matchup, both offensive lines will be under the microscope. The Chargers must protect their star quarterback from the Raiders' pass rush, led by formidable edge rushers. Conversely, the Raiders' offensive line must create running lanes, establish a balanced attack, and take pressure off their quarterback. The Chargers have invested heavily in their defensive front, and they have the talent to disrupt the run and create negative plays. The battle in the trenches will be fierce, and will likely determine the flow of the game. The team that can control the line of scrimmage will control the clock, sustain drives, and walk away with a crucial divisional victory. This sets up a fascinating contrast between a potential blowout in Houston and a down-to-the-wire battle in the desert. Beyond the point spreads and totals, the player prop market offers a treasure trove of opportunities for savvy bettors. In the Bucs-Texans game, one matchup immediately stands out: running back Nick Chubb against the Tampa Bay run defense. While Chubb is one of the league's elite backs, the Bucs have consistently boasted one of the NFL's stingiest run defenses. Given Houston's offensive line struggles, it's difficult to envision Chubb finding much room to operate against this formidable front seven. Taking the under on Nick Chubb's rushing yards feels like a strong play. He will get volume, but the efficiency just won't be there. The Texans will feed him carries, but the Buccaneers' defensive front will consistently meet him at or behind the line of scrimmage. For Tampa Bay, an interesting name to watch is running back Bucky Irving. He's not the primary ball carrier, but he is a dynamic weapon in the passing game. With defenses focused on stopping Tampa's trio of receivers, Irving could see a high volume of checkdowns and designed screens. The Texans' linebackers struggled in coverage last week, and this seems like a perfect spot for the Bucs to exploit that weakness with Irving's speed and elusiveness. Shifting to the AFC West clash, injuries on the Raiders' side could create an opportunity for Jaden Higgins to see an increased target share. Higgins has shown reliable hands and an ability to work the middle of the field as a go-to safety valve. In a game where the Raiders may need to rely on shorter, quicker passes to negate the Chargers' pass rush, betting the over on Higgins' receptions is a high upside play. On the defensive side, all eyes will be on Texans defensive end Danielle Hunter, who remains a premier pass-rushing threat despite the offense's struggles. He will be facing a Buccaneers offensive line playing without Tristan Wirfs, creating a prime matchup against a backup tackle. Houston will likely be trailing, forcing Tampa to pass frequently in the second half. This scenario sets up perfectly for Hunter to rack up pressure and sacks. Taking the over on Danielle Hunter's sacks is a bet on an elite talent in a favorable matchup with the game script working in his favor. After breaking down the matchups, trends, and player props, a few smart bets emerge for this Monday Night Football doubleheader. For the first game, laying the points with the road favorite feels like the right move. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers -7.5 is the primary pick. The Texans showed fundamental flaws in Week 1 that are not easily fixed in a single week, especially on the offensive line. Tampa Bay, meanwhile, looks like an offensive juggernaut with the emergence of Emeka Egbuka creating mismatches across the field. This feels like a mismatch where the Bucs' offense will be able to score at will, while their defense smothers a struggling Houston attack. The player props all correlate with this expectation. Nick Chubb under rushing yards, Bucky Irving over total yards, and Danielle Hunter over sacks with Tristan Wirfs out. In the nightcap, the game is trickier, but there's value on the home underdog with the AFC West rivalry factor and energy of the Las Vegas crowd. The smart play here is to take the Las Vegas Raiders +2.5. They have the defensive line to disrupt and just enough firepower to keep pace. This game feels destined to be decided by a field goal in either direction, so getting the points with the home team is the prudent strategy. The biggest potential surprise would be the Texans keeping their game competitive if Houston's coaching staff can scheme up protection and Hunter dominates. In the late game, the surprise would be a Chargers blowout if their offense clicks on all cylinders and the Raiders can't sustain drives. However, it could be an ugly physical affair, which often benefits the underdog in divisional rivalry games like this one. The most likely outcome is two very different games, a dominant showing by the Bucs and a down-to-the-wire brawl in the desert. These picks offer solid value based on the matchup analysis, injury situations, and game script expectations. Monday Night Football always delivers drama, but smart bettors focus on the fundamentals: offensive line play, key injuries, and situational advantages. Take the Bucs to cover, the Raiders to keep it close, and look for value in the player props we've identified. Good luck, and enjoy the doubleheader.